All right, everybody. Yes, that is correct. It's 11 o'clock on Monday morning. The moment that everybody, and I do mean everybody, waits for. The moment where Mark Puttenvink is live in front of both universes. Like anybody in both universes can see him. There's probably some extraterrestrial being out there, right, that's looking at Mark Puttenvink and going, I want to be like Mark Puttenvink. That's what he's saying.
How do you know I'm not one?
Good point. You could be. That's right. Yeah. Maybe you are. Right?
You never know, bro.
Okay, so what's the purpose of no shirt then? Like, what's the ET getting from that? Like, is it like is he getting getting power from the sun?
Yeah, it's vitamin D. I'm getting it through the sunroof here.
What are our UV rays? UV rays come from the sun?
Yeah, the UV is ultraviolet rays. It's radiation basically, but it's broken up over a spectrum.
It's supposed to be very healthy for you, right?
Well, you get vitamin D production. The only source of natural vitamin D production is from sunlight.
So I know, obviously, you believe in the health benefits of sunlight. Obviously, you got to be careful with skin cancer,
absolutely. But no, it's a fact. I mean, again, you just look at populations that have a large depression problem. There are populations that either have a lot of rain, like Seattle,
right,
or you get the dark 6 months a year, like Finland, parts of Alaska,
right.
And there's a high depression because you need the sun for. We talked about this, the situational, not situational. Being at not seeing the sun and being in the dark all the time has a negative effect on you mentally and physically.
Right. Yeah. Who's the guy that?
I'm sorry, seasonal.
Right. That's right. Who's the guy that Joe Rogan has on all the time? Von something. He's the ice guy.
Theo Von.
He's the ice guy, isn't he? The big guy about.
Wim Hof.
Wim Hof.
Wim Hof. Yeah, and he's the guy that developed the whole concept of the cold bath and the swimming. Yeah.
He's pretty good. And I got to remember he was talking about some long scientific name. For something that's already in your body, and it actually you can tan yourself internally. He was talking about.
Well, it's I believe it's melatonin, which gives your skin tone.
Right, but it probably was.
I know what you're talking about. There was another. Yeah.
And there's some supplements he was saying that you could take that actually help enhance that. It's supposed to be very healthy for you. Like it helps you protect yourself from the sun, and also tans yourself internally too. It's pretty cool the way he was talking about.
I know.
Go ahead.
No, he's very good. He's very bright. I know another guy that's got a little patch that's transdermally weared on your abdomen, and it's supposed to reproduce like infrared, but inside your body, and it increases stem cell production. Stem cells are so important to healing.
Right.
So that's there's so much coming out now because technology and it just rapidly keeps going along, but we're not too far, Tom, from being injectable with nanorobots that will actually cure cancer, cure diabetes. They'll know where to attack, what cells to attack.
Okay, here's a conspiracy theory in me, though. Okay, so this is terrible to say it this way, but the cancer. I hope I don't say the wrong words. It's an industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? $1 trillion.
Yeah.
So that's my concern. Are we really going to? Are the big companies going to allow to have a cure?
Think of it this way. So what? This is just my opinion on it. But you look at the government, the way they react to certain. So we had a pandemic, everybody stopped. We had all these rules put in place. We shut down everything. We know that cigarette smoking causes cancer and cardiovascular disease, and about close to 500,000 people a year die from those diseases.
Right.
Cigarettes are legal. They don't do anything to stop.
Right.
So you have to. So what I'm getting at is you have to really do your own research. You have to do a lot of research because I was reading research over the weekend about is it okay to have 1 or 2 drinks a day?
Right.
And every time you look at studies, you have to look at the population you're studying.
Yeah.
Because I'm not blowing wind up our skirts, but very few men our age. Well, let's say there's less men our age that stay in shape and eat right than not. Right. So when you take what population are you doing this research on? Right. If the people are having 1 or 2 drinks a day, and they're slamming down 15 pizzas and they have diabetes and cardiovascular disease and cancer to begin with from all those bad lifestyle choices, it's not really inaccurate. So it's very difficult. You really have to, really just kind of read your way through a lot of research. Unless it's cut and dry, like in Brendan Duffy's business, it's it's cut and dry. There's no sleep is sleep. But as it relates to nutrition and lifestyle and all that, it's pretty simple.
I know. And it's the same thing, like you talk about the cigarettes and you're done on. So they don't allow the advertising anymore, but they still sell the cigarettes.
Right.
But it's the same thing. You look at foods that make you obese and cause diabetes. They're just as bad as the cigarettes. But they not only do they allow it, they advertise selling hot dogs and all the processed meats and everything.
When COVID first hit us, I was listening to a pretty renowned surgeon say, he was talking about COVID, but he said 80% of critical illness is preventable by lifestyle change.
Yeah.
80%. And listen, it's very difficult to do what we do because this is what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Other people have jobs that don't give them the leeway to do what we do, but you can still make good choices with your food, with your lifestyle, with when you do have that moment to get out, get some fresh air, go for a walk, whatever it is. So I get it. Not everybody can do what we do, but you can do more than you're doing now, I think, in most cases. And I read a great quote, Tom. We're not looking for increased lifespan. We're looking for increased health span.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool way to look at it.
Yeah. I don't want to live to 100 years old and not be able to move for the last 20 years. I want to listen. And again, I don't want to sound more, but I know you the same way. I don't want to die tomorrow, but I feel comfortable if I was to die tomorrow. I go, I had a great life, man. I lived all
life. Yeah. Except for being a Jets fan, but other than that, it's cool.
You know what the funny thing is too, this whole mental health thing, it is a constant learning process for me. And like so many, I know you know all this stuff, but for so long I've been telling everybody, okay, you need to work on your mental health, you need to reach out and talk to people and make yourself better and all that. And I honestly, this is going to sound terrible, but I thought, I didn't think I was perfect, but I thought, well, I don't need to work on anything. I'm all fine. Now I start to open up, the can of worms here, and I realized I got some things to work on. Like, I'll be careful about names and that, but I was dealing with a person that's very close to me, and he reached out to me for, wanted to talk about some stuff. And I was there for him initially, but then I get selfish. I get wrapped up in my own stuff and wasn't there for him enough. And he was very, very close to me. And I realized, man, I'm selfish. And a buddy of mine, I said that to him. He says, well, yeah, your whole life you've been catered to as a professional athlete, told how great you are. Yeah. And you start to believe it. Then you got to peel back the layers and say, man, I got some work to do. And it's great doing it, but it's like almost like I'm 65 years old. Hold on. I'm 65 years old, and I'm realizing now I got some things to work on. So yeah.
But I mean, the fact that you're realizing it and talking to me and everybody else right now about it means you're working on it.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
So we're going up to West Point tomorrow to play.
Oh, nice.
Up there. Yeah, nice. So it's gonna be an exciting day. We lost in the community someone from Chicago over the weekend. We lost another guy.
Oh wow.
And, so it drives home the fact that this is critical. The suicide in the military community is very high, and it just doesn't seem to be addressed by anybody in particular. But we do our best.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a really cool story. So going up to West Point tomorrow, and it just happened to be that a few days ago, there was a young man that I had coached. It was called midget back then, but it was different. It was like 15 and a half and 16 and a half went by whatever. Yeah. It was crazy. But anyway, he played midget for me, and it was a long time ago. He ended up going to West Point. He played West Point hockey. He was a captain of the West Point team. And after I coached him, I'd run into him periodically. I should say sporadically. He was doing some summer camps and stuff like that. But anyhow, we lost him in Kandahar in 2012. Suicide vest bomber. Took him and a couple other majors out. So I had made a post on Facebook, recognizing his birthday or whatever. And anyhow, long story short, there's a new member on our team, Jason DiPietro, who saw the post and said, wait a minute. He was my captain.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Yeah, he was my captain at the time. Tommy was a captain. He was my captain, overseas, and he was the one that convinced Jason to stay in college and complete college.
Oh.
But it was just it's kind of like there are no coincidences that now we've met Jason and I. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That's cool.
So anyway,
do you think the number they use now for an average for veterans committing suicide is 22? You think it's way higher than that?
Well, they say it's probably closer to double that.
Oh, is that right now? Wow.
And there's different ways, again, it's not always just a very abrupt ending. It could just be a slow descent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important. I'm not versed in it. And we're trying to get up to speed with our education on suicide and what to ask and what to look for. But certainly never going to get hurt by saying to someone, hey, you doing okay?
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. Just be there for someone. Just show somebody that you care about them, right? That very often is part of the reason they feel like they're all alone and everything. So.
Yes, you're right, Barry. Korea. That's where Barry served as well.
Yeah. Barry, also, you do need to work on smoking, but we love you. We don't want to lose you. So get rid of those cigarettes. You know what I found, and again, just because I did these shows with this Jackie Long, she's a hypnotist. And I really started to believe in the hypnotism. I got to get her back on, do some more shows, but listen to her talk, like the science behind it, how you can kind of retrain your subconscious mind. And,
Absolutely.
yeah, very cool.
You know, I read, so there's another good friend of mine, Tony Ricci. He's a professor down in Florida University, and he's a sports scientist. He was an athlete and good friend of mine. And it's amazing.
Hold on. Would he say he's a good friend of yours? Or is that just you saying that? They're good friends?
I'm saying it.
Okay, so it's not.
He probably doesn't even, if you said my name, you go, I don't even know who that is. But, you know, he posted something the other day where, you know, we talk about, like with the SEALs, like with Kenny Bigby, you know, it's 60%, you got another 40%.
Right. So
he made a great plan. I never really thought about this. And we're talking about the evolution of humans, both physically and mentally, but in his case, physically. So you get a guy now that can do, like David Goggins, per se, is an ultra marathoner, does these 135 mile an hour races. Not mile an hour, mile length races. But it's not really in our DNA because you never had to chase an antelope for 135 miles.
Sure.
So it wasn't something that was passed down as a survival skill. But we've been able to take and push the human limits so far out that we don't really need to survive, but we've done it. And I think we can do the same thing with what you're doing now with mental health, you know, self-analysis and talking to people and things like that. We have no understanding really how far, and they're finding now there's so many different ways to deal with the PTSD, like with hallucinogenics such as mushrooms and I think ketamine and other things like that.
That toad poison too,
yeah. So it's I think it gives me hope.
Yeah.
That maybe someday I'll get straight. But yeah, so it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. You know, Coggins is interesting. I really admire him a ton, him and Jocko Willink, you know, being veterans and the things they've done and how they motivate other people. My only criticism of was that they were very harsh, right? It's like, okay, get up, get the F up, you know, and which is, it's for certain people, that's great.
Yeah.
But what I noticed with Coggins lately, I've seen a couple of his videos, and he's really kind of opened up himself too, peeling back the layers. He did one show with Joe Rogan. I think both shows with Joe Rogan. And the first one, he talked about the fact that people think, and he was kind of laughing about, people think that I come from Mars or something like that, and I'm a superhuman being. He says, well, there's a lot of times when I have to go out and run, and I'll sit there for 30 minutes and just stare at my shoes because I don't want to do it. But the difference is I just do it. He had another show recently too, where he talked about making himself vulnerable. He said, listen, we've all got things from our past that we have to deal with. Make yourself vulnerable, go back and fix your stuff so that you can be better for the people around you today, which I thought was really pretty cool.
Yeah.
Making yourself vulnerable. Like, so that's the big thing, especially for men, right? It's like, especially in a relationship, to make yourself vulnerable. Like, it's a scary thing. I've done that recently. I remember the first time I did it, it's like, oh my, I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth. What's going to be the reaction? How are people going to look at me? And it was the best thing in the world. People looked at me like, Tom, that was unbelievable that you did that. It's so genuine and everything. So it's cool.
Well, if you read his book, Can't Hurt Me, which by the way, you know, Bill Brown, Chapter 4 is all about Bill.
Oh, is it really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, because they went through Bloods together. I think they served together in Iraq. But yeah, it's the whole chapter is about Bill Brown. But the overarching thing that I pulled away from it was in his life is he was raised pretty rough. His dad was pretty rough.
Yep.
I mean, violent.
Yep.
Want to get to that.
And he was overweight too as a boy.
300 pounds. He went in the Air Force first. He was 300 pounds. He used to sit in the basement, eat donuts, and do his thing. But he was motivated to change that, obviously. But yeah, so we all have different reasons we are who we are.
Yeah. And
most of that's, you know, I think I remember reading that our personalities are pretty much developed by age 7.
Yeah, they say anywhere from the last trimester in the womb up until 7 or 8 years old. Yep.
You know, but somebody, you know, you meet some guys sometimes in life that aren't formally educated, but are just like smart guys.
Right.
And I had a fighter, Richard Pearson, who started in a gym telling us how one day life is 7 years spans. You know, I said, what do you mean?
Told me
well, yeah, you're 7 years old, you're 7, but when you're 14, you're completely different than you were when you're 7 years old.
Yeah.
And then when you're 21, you're much different than you were from when you were. So we do have the capacity to, I mean, it's just a natural course of events, but our basic personality and stuff like that is pretty much developed, like I said.
Yeah, that Jackie Long, the hypnotist, talked about how that's the case up until 7 or 8 years old. And what happens really with your subconscious mind is actually like a cap that goes over top of it to lock all that stuff in. So that the rest of your life, then whatever happens to you in those early years, good, bad, positive, negative, that's what forms your, you know, how you run your life. You can change that through things like hypnosis and meditation and just constantly saying to yourself, Yeah, and constantly saying to yourself, I can, make yourself more positive. So I want to put Ron's comment, Ron Jameson, our veteran buddy up in Buffalo. What sucks with some of that, some that need help, they say what people want to say. There needs to be a way to get them to open up. Yeah.
And it's
Good
not
point.
easy. I mean, it's not
Oh.
easy. None of this is easy.
Yeah.
It takes work, and it takes, one thing in full transparency, I did go many years ago to get certified as a drug alcohol counselor. And one of the things that we learned is that everybody's different in terms of even your ethnicities even. So in other words, to get, say, a Puerto Rican man, because Puerto Rican Spanish families are very patriarchal, meaning that whatever the father says goes. You can't argue with it. So it's very difficult if the father has a problem to talk him into going for treatment.
Right.
Because Poppy's always right? And that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So to Ron's point, what I learned, and one of the things that I was told is, we sat down one day and the presenter says there's no such thing as therapy. We all went, what is he talking about? Why are we here then? He said there's either good therapy or bad therapy. That's it. So if you're not able to open up, maybe you need to search out a different therapist if it's possible. Because like everything else, there's good doctors and bad doctors. With therapists, there's good ones and there's bad ones. Yeah,
and if you can't, like if you're sitting with a certain person and you think they're a good friend of yours, and you open up and you make yourself vulnerable and you talk about what's going on inside you, if they don't accept it, if they laugh at it, or whatever, then they're really not your good friend, right? The good friends will stick with you. They'll say, "Wow, I'm here for you. Maybe I just don't totally understand it, but I'm here for you, and I'm going to help."
And they have bail money.
They have bail.
Very important.
Yeah,
bail money.
Oh.
No, even self-talk is really important because, I've been kind of on a personal mission to just try to do the right thing. It takes a lot of self-talk.
Is change always good? Well, I mean, not change for the sake of change. You want to make yourself better, right? I think constantly. That's one of the biggest things I've learned through people like Mark and other people that I've spoken to. You constantly want to be better. Don't ever say to yourself, I'm 80 years old, this is just what I am. You can always get better.
And there's different types of change. So people we see in substance abuse and other kind of stuff like that, where people think a geographical change is going to make a difference.
Right.
Well, no matter where you go, there you are. So whatever problems you have, you're bringing along with you. So change just for change, like Tom said, is not necessarily always the best thing. But evolution's different than change, I think, too.
Sure, I agree too. Yeah, I constantly be evolving. Yeah, man, that's like I realized for a portion of my life there, I didn't evolve. I was just stuck in probably from the time I was, I don't know,
retired from playing. We all get labeled. You're a professional athlete. People get labeled, and they start to live to the limits within that label, and they forget that's not really who they are. It's what they do.
Right. Yeah. And there's no expectation of perfection either. That's one of the biggest things you got to get past. We're all flawed people. We all have issues, and we will all continue to have issues. You got to just keep working on yourself, get better. And don't ever look at yourself and oh man, I'm an idiot or whatever. No. And I've done that myself too sometimes when especially I'm realizing more in my personal life is sometimes, and again, you've been really good for me with this, Mark, where I why is there somebody acting like that? Or why is somebody close to me not responding or whatever? And well, Tom, you should do this, or you should do that, or here's the way it's looking. And you realize, oh God, why didn't I get that? It's like and I think part of it is for me and for other professional athletes, we get told how great we are for a large part of our lives. Yeah, always. And even after, like we had the Skate with the Greats at Chelsea Piers in the city on last Wednesday, and I was the MC for the event, this Ronald McDonald charity. And, I've gotten good at that now, speaking in front of people, and everybody's, oh man, Tom, you're great. And I felt myself feeling like, oh man, I'm the show. I'm the man, we're there for a charity.
That's okay.
Well, yeah, but we're there for a charity. We're there, and I caught myself, and it was still good. I mean, I was happy that I did well, and I was proud of myself and all that kind of stuff. But it was for a brief second, I kind of made it about me. And really, it's not about me; it's about the event. But at least I catch myself now. Before in the past, I would have caught myself. I was just
that's the self-talk, and that's what kind of like I've been trying to really stay with recently for a while now, because I'll go to do something or not do something, probably not do something. Then I said, no, just do it. Get it done. Do it, man. Don't put it off to later because you're never going to do it. Totally. And that's even in my behavior. So Saturday, the town had shredding, so we had all those paperwork to shred, documents and bank statements. So I go there. There's a pretty long line. Well, it actually wasn't that long, but I had two older women in front of me and two housewives in front of them. One of the older women was complaining about the line, and the old me would have been saying, "Hey, lady, shut up." But now the new me says, "She's an older woman. God bless her. Totally. If she's having trouble moving her box up, got a foot, I'll move it with my foot. You know, so but what I'm saying is I don't know if that's what I would have thought a while
Yeah,
back.
I know.
You know, when I start to think that way, it's a self-talk where I catch myself saying, no,
Yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah, look at the positive, right? I've got some friends that are, really negative, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go hang around with this person. And I think to myself, no, you know what? They've got things going on in their life, trying to help them with their life and feel better. And then the whole scene isn't as negative because now it's more spun and positive.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true because it's very easy for people, especially people that I feel bad for people in public because all their problems are always aired nationally. Yeah. Right? So you get a guy like, Theo Fleury was in New York when I was there, and everybody just couldn't stop saying what a bad person he is because of cocaine, without even knowing anything about his personal life.
Yep.
And we all do that. I mean, we all, especially when it's a public figure, because it's easy to, maybe you're even a little bit angry because they're so successful, and maybe you're not as a successful person. So you're looking to chip away at them. Right? Yeah.
Well, one of the biggest lessons I ever learned in my life was when I represented Sheldon Kennedy. So people don't know, he was sexually abused by his junior coach. It's a famous story up in Canada. Starting when he was like 14 years old. And I knew him. I was living in Detroit. I was representing Dallas Drake. I was playing for the Red Wings, and Sheldon was also on the Red Wings. So three of us would get together for lunch every once in a while. And Sheldon was this fantastic person, fun-loving, great guy to be around. But he was always getting in trouble. Car accidents, drunken and driving, crashes, motorcycle, all these kinds of things. And he came to me at one point and asked me to represent him. And he had a really great agent already that I knew very well and respected a lot. So it kind of seemed strange. But I sat him down. I said, okay, but if we're going to do this, then, I gave him like the fatherly speech, to stop the drinking and driving, the drugs and everything, thinking I'm really helping him. So I was judging him. I had prejudged him already, not knowing anything about his past life. And then he called me about 2 weeks after we started working together and was like stuttering on the phone, like almost like he was going to fire me. And I'd really never done anything for him yet. And that's the first time he told me that he'd been sexually abused by his junior coach. And I really learned from that lesson that I did not know what he had been through in his life, but I had judged him on what he was today, not knowing anything. And it was a great lesson for me. So I see people now like that Antonio Brown that gets in all the trouble, the football player, and everybody's like, what a jerk he is now. And maybe he is a jerk, but something had to have happened to him in the past to make him what he is. To me, it has to. Yeah.
And by the way, I think, you know this, but the same coach abused Theo.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Because those guys played junior together. And, but anyway, so like that's the thing. It's very quick to make a call on somebody without really knowing what's going on. And
I still do it once in a while. I catch myself. I got in the train. Yeah, I get in the train probably 3 or 4 years ago, heading out of the city, and this young guy gets on. He's got the punk hat, with the flat brim and the red shoes, and he looks like the punk kind of guy. He's sitting in a chair, and an the train's packed. An elderly lady gets on the train. So I think I'm going to get up and I'm going to give her my seat. Before I could get up, he got up out of his seat, went and got her and brought her back to his chair, to her chair. And I'm thinking, here I go again. I misjudged this kid. And I actually went up to her and I told him, I said, listen, I got to apologize to you. I had you judged the wrong way. What you did just there was fantastic. And it was,
there's sometimes, you think you're going to be Batman too, right? And start plotting on run. So I was in a train in Finland. And so you sit, persons across you. There's a young lady, attractive woman, I would say in her 20s, middle to late 20s, shopping bags all around her. And then down at the end of the car was this big dude, leather jacket with the red tinted sunglasses on, like biker kind of dude. And he starts walking down. He's chirping at her. And I'm thinking, oh, man, like, what do I do here? Because if I intervene, then it's the ugly American. But anyhow, long story short, whatever she said to him and finished, he spun around, went right back down, sat down, and said a word. Kind of put his head down. So either she was somebody or she put him in his place, but it was,
that's pretty cool. There's some great examples of people turning their lives around. Darryl Strawberry is a minister these days. People can judge him. Yeah. Sure. And that's the thing. You're right. I mean, just because people have act a certain way, you can always turn your life. And that's a good lesson for everybody else, not just looking at a guy like Darryl Strawberry, but also understanding with yourself. Don't think you're a terrible person. Maybe you're doing something bad right now. Maybe you're got in the habit of doing drugs or whatever it is. You can fix yourself. It's just it's simple as that.
I mean, I have a real good friend of mine. You know who he is too, but he had a 20-year history of just craziness. And I always said, listen, good guy, he's just got a bad problem. Yeah. Because he never threw anybody under the bus. He never crapped in something in his own backyard, pardon the French. But he had a bad problem. And now guess what? 12 years later, I mean, he's got 12 years of sobriety together. So it can happen. And it's that self-change. It's, it's a big part of it.
Don't ever say to yourself, don't ever say to yourself, this is what I am. I can't change it. You can always change it. You can always make yourself better and work at it.
Absolutely.
A kid from a good hockey family, example, Danny Briere kid. How do these kids go wrong in their mindset? Well, that's a great question. There's a lot of answers for that, right? I mean, to me, that's why youth sports can be so important for kids and so detrimental for kids too, where a coach plays such a huge role in how he coaches those kids. So I'm a huge believer. Yes, you want to win. There's no question. It's the process that goes into winning that is important. And it's like every kid needs to be felt like, okay, you're trying to make that kid a better player, every kid on the team, not just your top 6 guys or whatever. It's every kid on the team. If you really want to win, that's how you get a better team anyway. So at the end of the year, all the kids feel good about themselves. That's from the hockey standpoint. That'll also carry over into their personal lives too. So I just think sports can play such a huge role in getting kids like feeling good about themselves so they won't do the drugs and alcohol and get in trouble all the time. So.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have discussed coaches that were from 40, 50 years ago that we still remember like it was yesterday because they had an impact on us.
Oh, totally.
And,
Good
and bad. Good and
bad. Totally. Yeah, my junior coach, I talked to people, this Rick Hay, he saw something in me. I was that good player, big, strong farm boy, kind of lazy in some ways on the ice, kind of take things for granted, I wasn't working hard. And he saw something in me and he got on me and we did the breakout. I've said this story over and over. We did our breakout practices. It felt like it was every Wednesday for 20 minutes. It may have been 5 minutes. I don't know. And it seemed like he just was on me the full 20 minutes. And I felt like I was going to throw up every time he started his drill. But what happened was I got to be to the point where that was one of my best things. Get back quick to the puck, move it up to the forward as quickly as possible. That was it. That was my staple of my game. And that was a huge part of my game. And it was because of him. He saw something in me, pushed me to get myself better. And because of that, I made it.
Well, he knew it, and he knew, to his credit, he knew what they were looking for at the next level.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh God, that feeling. It's a funny look back at those kinds of things. It seemed like we practiced for 2 hours, and I was always getting yelled at for 2 hours. It wasn't, but that's the way it seemed back then. Yeah, definitely. How did you get into boxing?
I was just one of those. I was a little scrawny kid, and I liked to fight.
Yeah. And
a couple of buddies of mine, one of them became a professional, and he actually fought Larry Holmes in '92.
Right.
They started boxing in Patterson, and we started boxing. And in fact, in his basement, he had 4 lolly columns. We took rope, we put up rope on a cement floor, and we'd fight. And then it got to be where we started to have Friday night fights in high school. So we walk up laid law, you're fighting Scott Frank next week. And you're like, no, what? And then we charge 50 cents a kid. We had 70 kids down there. We had the shop teacher there, everything.
Right. That's cool.
Friday night fights. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. How was your weekend?
Good. I was quiet. Just did some training and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right, Ron Jameson. Let's see what you've got to say here, brother. I hate the term nowadays. They are just kids. Yeah. Well, yeah. You know what? I'm with you. Some people they want to categorize. The kids nowadays are the kids nowadays. They're kids, and not all of them are the same. So to say that all kids between the age of what's a millennial, whatever the age group is, like my sons are totally, they're 29, 32 years old, and they're incredible gentlemen. Totally proud of them. Obviously, I'm prejudiced of my sons, but they're not soft, they're not weak, they're hard men, they're gentlemen with their women. So that to say they're in some category, and this is the way this category of people is, that's nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for kids today, it's harder than it can even be imagined with everything that's being thrown their way with the transgender, and I mean, they're trying to prevent and all this other stuff going on, and the suicide, and the bullying, and the TikTok and everything like that. It's got to be really, really difficult to be a kid and to raise a kid now. I don't know how you do it without really suffering some kind of liabilities, because it's just awful right now.
Oh, I agree. I have a buddy of mine I hadn't talked to in a long time. I just knew I should call him for some reason, and he's gone through some stuff with one of his family members, and it's a sad thing. It's like he wants to go in one direction to say to grab the kid and shake him, but he can't do that because it's going to push him in the wrong direction too. So.
And the problem now with fentanyl in particular is kids think they're taking a Xanax or something else. Yeah. It's got fentanyl in it, and every kid's going to experiment. I mean, that's just the way it is. And that's scary.
One of the worst.
It's really a scary time.
There's a couple of people I know that have lost children to fentanyl. And it's like,
I can't imagine.
You can't, there's nothing you can say to them. There's no way.
Your life ends.
Yeah. What we got here? Danny, I'd like to be the guy who makes a huge contribution to charity like a celebrity, but I contribute by working and developmentally children. Yes. Yeah. You know what? You're right. That's a great point by you, Danny. Yeah, it's great to donate money. Money's fine, but I think your time and your efforts, your heart, your soul,
So
If you're
put your
giving that
money
kind
where-
of stuff.
put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great
exactly.
thing.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
coaching young kids in sports and doing it for the right reason to make them better people. To me, that's like when I hear people say, like you said before, kids these days, the country's going down the crapper or whatever. This country's a fantastic country. I've said this before. The actual physical country itself, the Great Lakes, the Rocky Mountains, everything about it, and we've got some fantastic people. We just hear all the bad stuff, and I don't even blame the media for that.
do.
That's the news. Do you blame the media?
Oh, absolutely. So here's the thing, you know, the people in the media and the elites have figured out a long time ago that if we pick battles that we know the other side is going to be completely against, even if we don't really believe it,
Right.
but we cause this division, it's going to make us look good, and it's working for them. So,
Well, the division part I agree on, but I mean
Yeah.
the bad news that we hear though, like it's the bad news is there because it is news. Like showing good stories all the time doesn't get
sell.
ratings.
Doesn't
Right.
sell.
Doesn't get ratings.
Yeah. If it bleeds, it reads.
Yeah, that's
And that's unfortunate, but that's the truth. And it's the same thing, like, you know, living in this country, going back to celebrity, we like to see celebrities fail. Somehow it makes us feel better about ourselves. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
It's
true
just
too.
the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah. All right, brother. You know, again, the two universes have been, I don't know, like what would they, is there 3 universes?
Yeah. It was
There is
over-
now.
Yeah, over the weekend. Oh,
There's a new one.
yeah.
What would you say? Like, what's the difference you've made? Like, probably like you've educated. That's what I said. You have educated the 2 universes, and now people are better
You
people.
know what's amazing? So, like, I watch this stuff on YouTube, and you know, also right over my head. But so this guy, I forget his name now, but he's talking about trying to measure the smallest distance and also the smallest amount of time, and he's talking about an atomic level. So that's where it gets a little fuzzy for me.
Right.
But he's starting to say, like, just it would require so much energy to make that measurement that the whole universe would collapse. I'm like, what's this guy do all weekend?
I know, right? That's true. All right, but so again, we'll start doing this more often. We do it on our Wednesday show. That 988 is that mental health hotline. So listen, you can reach out to either one of us. We'll help you in any way you can. But again, that's the professionals there at that hotline. So we'll do what we can. So everybody have a fantastic, great to see you again. You see, you know what I like to is that the shirt sleeves are coming off. Soon there'll be no shirt whatsoever.
How do you know I have pants on now?
Good point. You got flip flops on or what?
Bare feet.
Bare feet. All right, brother. Have a good week. See you, buddy.